But now some in Hollywood are taking aim at the Navy SEAL. Michael Moore tweeted that snipers like Chris Kyle are cowards. And Seth Rogen, who made his mark with movies about sexually frustrated potheads, compared Kyle's biopic to a Nazi propaganda film.
Seth Rogen got in trouble for pointing out that it looked just like the Nazi propaganda inside Inglourious Basterds. But watch that portion of Inglourious Basterds. It's almost literally the same. But instead you take out bad guy Nazis, you put in good guy American sniper, wave the flag, yeah, it's awesome, we killed the savages. And by the way, that's what they called them throughout the movie. Iraqis were savages. Wait, I thought we went to liberate them. That's kind of weird. It turns out we went to go shoot them in the head.
A lot of his own personal opinions about what he was doing in Iraq, how he viewed Iraqis, some of what people have described as his racist tendencies towards Iraqis and Muslims as he was going on some of these, killing sprees in Iraq on assignment.
Hurt Locker made $17 million because it was a little ambiguous and thoughtful. And this one is just American hero. He's a psychopath patriot, and we love him. I don't know. Eisenhower once said, "I hate war as only a soldier who has lived it can." I just don't see this guy in the same league as Eisenhower. I'm sorry. And if you're a Christian, I know this is a Christian country, I hate the damn savages. I don't give a fuck what happens. That doesn't seem like a Christian thing to say.
There's a lot of anger in this country, and the people who go see this movie are people who are very angry. And this guy basically says, I'm going to fight on your side, and they fight for it. I think there's some, I bet you if you looked at a cross-section of the Tea Party and people who go to see this movie, there's a lot of intersection.
Well, and again, it's ignorant, and when you use the term American hero, I will beg to differ, because to me, being a hero requires honor. You have to have honor to be a hero.
So, a lot of people have been criticizing American Sniper, and a lot of people have been defending it. I happen to watch the movie recently. I think it is pure propaganda.
Like, they go to war so that, mostly for energy companies, arms companies, political elites that govern the world. I think we know that already.
Where you celebrated this guy killing 160 people, breaking all records by a mile. You think every one of those was a clean kill? He shoots so many more people than any other American sniper. And you're thinking, no, he's perfectly discriminating. He just happens to be awesome at spotting grenades and weapons and all those things. Or could a guy who loves killing people, as we're about to explain to you through his own words, perhaps a little bit more indiscriminate with who he killed? Okay.
Somewhere today, a soldier is reading her daughter a bedtime story, and a Marine is tossing a football with his son because a Navy SEAL sharpshooter did his job.
It's interesting how he's willing to provide really minute context for his own beliefs, but no context for information that contravenes me. Somewhere in America, there's a lovely soldier giving a cake to a little disabled boy. Whilst in Iraq, those ape-like savages spit and piss on each other's graves and have sex with each other's children. Oh, I don't think they do that. They do, and it's all thanks to Chris Kyle.
You guys just got to see a bunch of elitist, progressive scumbags ripping on Chris Kyle and ripping on American Sniper, and the man was a bona fide hero as far as I'm concerned because he risked life and limb. He went back to Iraq 4 times. His motivation to go back to Iraq was he was such a good shot that he saved a lot of American and Iraqi lives. You know, of course, liberals love to oversimplify things while at the same time, talking about how nuanced they are and how they're just the smartest people in the world. And they seem to be really offended that Chris Kyle would call certain Iraqis savages. And by the way, he called certain Iraqis savages. He didn't refer to all of them as savages, but progressives need to lie and take things out of context to prove their points, because without lies, everything they say generally falls apart. This is from the Daily Kos. American Sniper is not the problem, it's the histories and the policies. Another message in the film, in my view, is that it was somehow noble and not bizarre for Kyle to keep returning to the battlefield for a war of false pretexts in the face of his family. This Daily Kos blogger could never understand the mentality of a guy like Chris Kyle who would want to go back to Iraq and protect his fellow soldiers. That's just doesn't ever occur to someone that would write at the Daily Cost. The American neocon sniper movie, and you know, here you got Cheney. You know, anytime you can make fun of Bush and Cheney. This is from The Guardian. The real American sniper was a hate-filled killer. Why are simplistic patriots treating him as a hero? So this is how they see people who are patriotic, who look up to someone who sacrifices for a cause greater than himself. I mean, it's insulting. I mean, these people are absolutely vile. This is the smartest film critic in the world, Cole Smithy, who I've never heard of, but just the arrogance of that. American Sniper, corporate, political, military junta propaganda. Hollywood commits cultural suicide with Clint Eastwood's help. Cultural suicide is going to be about a $400 million domestic box office take, by the way. Cole, the smartest film critic in the world. And then you have Matt Taibbi from the vile Rolling Stone magazine, which put a terrorist on their cover and just falsely accused a fraternity of rape with no evidence. I mean, that gives you an idea of just how slimy Rolling Stone is. American Sniper, almost too dumb to criticize. I want you guys to really think about this for a minute. What are savages? Okay? My friend Michael Yon is a combat photographer, and he was in Iraq several times. And he took this picture, and it's called Little Girl. Okay? So it shows an American soldier holding a little Iraqi girl. Now, what's the story behind this? Well, Major Mark Beeger found this little girl after the car bomb that attacked our guys while kids were crowding around. The soldiers here have been angry and sad for 2 days. They are angry because the terrorists could have just easily waited a block to attack the patrol away from the kids. Instead, the suicide bomber drove his car and hit the striker when about 20 children were jumping up and down and waving at the soldiers. Okay, that's a savage. You got an American patrol, and there's a bunch of Iraqi children jumping and saying hello, and the soldiers are throwing them candy, and a suicide bomber drives up to take out as many kids as he possibly can. Okay? Now, that would have been very different if Chris Kyle had been within a couple hundred yards and maybe shot the suicide bomber in the head. That would be a good thing, wouldn't it, Bill Maher? You know, wouldn't it, Michael Moore? Is that a coward? To stop this kind of a horror? There's something else I want you to see. I want you to look at the look on this girl's face when she sees her dad come home from Iraq and surprise her. Look at the anguish. It's joy, but it's pain at the same time. Now, if Chris Kyle killed 160 terrorists or insurgents or people with rocket-propelled grenades, I want you to imagine this little girl and look at her face and imagine her standing in front of a flag-draped coffin, never going to see her dad again. But because Chris Kyle was such a good shot, this girl gets to see her dad and not a flag-draped coffin. You know, I don't think a scumbag like Bill Maher or Michael Moore can even fathom these concepts. They just want to aggrandize themselves. They just want publicity. Michael Moore will say anything to try to remain relevant. You know, I'm doing my best not to just constantly swear and yell, and you know, but it's just revolting what these guys do and what they're about and how they're about nothing. And I think that's the reason why someone like Howard Dean or Bill Maher or Michael Moore or any of these slime try to talk down at a person like Chris Kyle. They could never, ever live up to what Chris Kyle was. Anyway, thanks for watching.
What struck me in the book, though, is that you considered the people you were killing, the Iraqis you were killing, quote-unquote savages.
The people I was killing, not just Iraqis.
Why did you consider the enemy savages?
From their actions, the way they live day to day, as far as the violence they commit on American troops, the beheadings, the rape of innocent villagers and townspeople that they go into just to intimidate them. They live by putting fear into other people's hearts, and civilized people just don't act that way. I wasn't so much committed to killing them as I'm committed to making sure every service member that was over there, whether American or Allied, came home.